The invitation to the governor's charity ball sat on my kitchen counter for a week before Mom called. It was her annual event, co-chaired with Dad, raising money for children's education. 500 guests. The state's elite. Black tie required. "Lauren, we need to discuss Saturday's ball," she said, her voice carrying that familiar edge. "Your father and I have decided it's best if you don't attend this year." I was in my home office, reviewing grant proposals for my foundation. 20 applications requesting funding. Each one represented programs that could change children's lives. "Why not?" I asked. "The guest list is extremely sophisticated this year," she replied. "The governor, state senators, major philanthropists, people who donate hundreds of thousands to causes. We don't want you to feel uncomfortable around that level of society." I looked at the foundation checkbook on my desk, the one I'd used last month to write a $1 million grant to the state's education initiative. The one that made me the governor's largest individual donor. "I see," I said quietly. "You know how you are at these events," she continued. "You get quiet. You don't know what to say to successful people. Your sister, Melissa, will be there with her husband. They know how to work a room, how to talk to donors. You just feel out of place." My foundation, established with my inheritance from Grandma Ruth, held assets of $50 million. I'd spent 5 years building it into one of the state's most influential educational charities. But I'd never mentioned any of that to my family. "I understand," I said softly. "I knew you would," she replied, pleased. "You've always been so reasonable about accepting your limitations. Not everyone can be sophisticated, and that's perfectly fine. You have your little nonprofit volunteer work. That's more your speed." My little nonprofit volunteer work. As founder and director of the Hartwell Foundation, I managed a staff of 12 and distributed $5 million annually in education grants. "Thanks for letting me know," I said. "You're welcome, sweetheart. Oh, and don't feel obligated to donate to the cause. I know money is tight for you. Just knowing you support us in spirit is enough." She hung up. Moments later, my assistant Jennifer knocked on the door. "Lauren, the governor's office called. They want to confirm you'll be at Saturday's ball. Apparently, the governor wants to personally thank you for the education initiative funding, says it's the largest single donation they've ever received." "Tell them I'll be there," I said. "Your mother is co-chairing that event, right? She must be so proud." I didn't respond. The next day, the governor's chief of staff, Michael Torres, called directly. "Ms. Hartwell, the governor is planning to recognize major donors during his speech Saturday night. You're first on the list. Your $1 million contribution transformed our literacy program. We'd like you at the head table." "Michael, there might be a complication," I said carefully. "My parents are co-chairing the event. They don't know about my foundation work." Silence. "They don't know you donated $1 million to the state's education initiative? They don't know I run a foundation," I admitted. "They think I do volunteer filing at a nonprofit." "Miss Hartwell," he said slowly, "you're the governor's largest individual donor. You've funded programs affecting thousands of children. How do your parents not know this?" "They've never asked about my work," I said quietly. "They assume it's insignificant." More silence. Then he said, "The governor specifically wants to thank you publicly. This is going to be awkward, isn't it?" "Probably. What do you want to do?" I thought about Mom's voice. "We can't have you at the charity ball." About 5 years of them dismissing my work without ever asking what I actually did. "I'll be there," I said. "The governor should recognize whoever he wants. My parents' misconceptions aren't his problem." The ball. Saturday evening, I dressed in a midnight blue gown I'd purchased for foundation events. Elegant, understated, nothing like the uncomfortable woman Mom imagined. At 7 o'clock, I arrived at the Grand Hotel ballroom. The red carpet was lined with guests in formal wear. At the entrance, Mom and Dad stood with the event committee, greeting arrivals. I walked up the carpet alone. Mom's welcoming smile froze when she saw me. "Lauren, what are you doing here? I told you we decided you shouldn't attend." "Good evening, Mom. I'm here at the governor's request." "The governor's request?" Dad frowned. "Lauren, this is a sophisticated event. The governor doesn't know you, Miss Hartwell." Just then Michael Torres appeared, extending his hand. "The governor is looking forward to meeting you. He's been eager to thank you personally." Please come with me. Mom grabbed my arm. There's been some mistake. My daughter isn't on the guest list. Miss Hartwell is at the head table, Mrs. Hartwell, Michael said, his tone polite but firm. VIP seating, as befits our largest donor. He led me past my parents' stunned faces into the ballroom. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. White roses adorned every table set with china and gold flatware. At the head table, name cards marked the seats of the governor, state officials, and major donors. Mine read, Lauren Hartwell, founder and director, Hartwell Foundation. The governor approached, smiling warmly. Lauren, finally we meet in person. I've been wanting to thank you since your $1 million grant arrived. That funding changed everything for our literacy program. Governor, I'm honored to support the work, I said. Education is the foundation's primary mission. Your foundation has been transformative, he said. Not just the education initiative, the rural schools grant, the teacher training program, the scholarship fund. You've done more for this state's children than most foundations twice your size. Several other guests joined us. State senators, education commissioners, nonprofit directors. Lauren, your scholarship program saved our district, said a superintendent. We couldn't have kept our arts classes without that funding. The teacher training grant was brilliant, added a university president. We've already seen measurable improvement in classroom outcomes. Across the room I saw Mom and Melissa staring. Dad was whispering urgently to someone on the event committee. Both looked pale. The recognition. At 7:30 the program began. After dinner the governor took the podium. Tonight we celebrate extraordinary generosity. This year's education initiative has been our most successful fundraising campaign ever, raising $3 million for children's literacy and school programs. Applause filled the room. But I want to recognize one person whose contribution made all the difference, he continued. One donor who single-handedly provided a third of our total funding, who believed in this mission so deeply that she committed her personal resources and her foundation's support to transforming education in our state. He turned toward me. Lauren Hartwell, founder and director of the Hartwell Foundation, donated $1 million to our education initiative. Lauren, please stand. I stood, my heart pounding as cameras flashed. Across the ballroom, my mother's expression said everything: shock, disbelief, and the first flicker of realization that her unsophisticated daughter had changed the future of the state's children. The room erupted in applause. The Hartwell Foundation has quietly supported children's education for 5 years, the governor said. Rural schools, teacher training, scholarships, literacy programs, all funded by the Hartwell Foundation. Lauren has distributed over $20 million in educational grants, impacting tens of thousands of children. She represents the very best of philanthropic leadership. The applause grew louder. The governor gestured for me to join him at the podium. Lauren, he said, smiling, on behalf of the state and the children whose lives you've changed, thank you. Your vision and generosity have created opportunities that wouldn't exist otherwise. He handed me a Crystal Award, the Governor's Medal for Philanthropic Excellence. Cameras flashed as we posed for photos. From the podium I could see my parents clearly. Mom's face had gone completely white. Dad's mouth hung open. Melissa was frantically typing on her phone. After the recognition I returned to my seat. State senators and education officials congratulated me, discussing future collaborations and thanking me for existing grants. The superintendent leaned over. Lauren, I have to ask, are those your parents at table 12? The event co-chairs, I replied. Do they know about your foundation work? As of about 5 minutes ago. He gave a sympathetic nod. That must be complicated. Very, I said. During dessert, Mom appeared at the head table, her face flushed, her voice tight. Lauren, can we speak privately? The governor looked over. Is everything all right, Mrs. Hartwell? Yes, Governor, she said quickly. I just need a moment with my daughter. Of course, he replied warmly. Though I hope you're planning to tell her how proud you are. Her foundation has done remarkable work. Mom's smile was strained. Yes, so proud. So very proud. We stepped into a quiet corridor. The moment we were alone, her composure cracked. Why didn't you tell us? She demanded. You run a foundation? You donated $1 million? You've been doing this for 5 years and never mentioned it. You never asked, I said evenly. You assumed my work was insignificant and never bothered to inquire further. You let us think you were struggling, that you did volunteer filing at some tiny nonprofit. I said I worked in nonprofit management, I reminded her. You heard what you wanted to hear. But $1 million donation? She pressed. Where did you even get that kind of money? Grandma Ruth's inheritance, I said. She left me $2 million when she died. I used it to establish the foundation. Mom's eyes widened. Your grandmother left you $2 million? She only left me $50,000. Because she knew I'd use it to help people, I said quietly. And she knew you'd use it for social climbing. Dad appeared equally shaken. Lauren, the governor just told me you're the state's largest individual education donor, that you've distributed $20 million in grants. How is that possible? I invested Grandma's inheritance wisely. The foundation has grown considerably. And you never thought to tell us? He asked, incredulous. To include us in this work? You told me I wasn't sophisticated enough for tonight's ball, I reminded him. You said I'd be uncomfortable around successful people. Why would I share my foundation work with parents who think I'm inadequate? Melissa joined us, her face red. Everyone's talking about you, about how you're this major philanthropist and we didn't even know. I look like an idiot. My own sister. I'm sorry my success is inconvenient for you, I said. Dad's voice was strained. The governor asked why we weren't celebrating your work as a family. I had to admit we didn't know about it. Do you know how that made us look? Like parents who don't pay attention to their daughter's life, I replied. Which is accurate. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Everyone is whispering, the event committee, the donors. They're saying we must not be close, that we're not involved in your life. Lauren, you've embarrassed us. I've embarrassed you? I said quietly. You uninvited me from this ball because you thought I wasn't good enough. The governor's largest donor wasn't welcome at her own parents' charity event. The governor's chief of staff appeared. Miss Hartwell, sorry to interrupt, but several donors would like to meet you. Potential collaborations for your foundation. Of course, I said. I'll be right there. As I turned to leave, Dad grabbed my arm. Lauren, please. Can you tell people this was a misunderstanding? That we knew about your work and just wanted to surprise you. You want me to lie to protect your reputation? I asked. We're your parents. Parents who didn't think I was sophisticated enough for their social circle, I said firmly. I'm not lying for you, Dad. The truth is the truth. I returned to the ballroom where foundation directors, nonprofit leaders, and business executives surrounded me to discuss partnerships. For the next hour, I spoke about grants, programs, and impact metrics. This was my world, the one I had built quietly for 5 years while my family dismissed me. Around 10 o'clock, I overheard the event coordinator speaking softly to my parents. The committee wants to discuss co-chair assignments for next year's ball. Given tonight's complications, we think it's best to make some changes. Mom's face crumbled. Losing that co-chair position meant losing everything she valued. Status, influence, access. The next morning, the story was everywhere. State's largest education donor uninvited from parents' charity ball. Photos of me receiving the governor's award. Articles about the foundation's 5-year impact. Commentary about parents so disconnected they didn't know their daughter ran a major philanthropy. Mom called at 8 a.m. Lauren, we need damage control. The society pages are destroying us. People are calling us neglectful, uninvolved. We're being dropped from committees. That's unfortunate, I said. Unfortunate, she snapped. Lauren, our reputation is being destroyed. You have to fix this. I didn't break it, Mom. You did. That night you decided I wasn't good enough for your sophisticated event. We didn't know, she said weakly. How were we supposed to know you had millions of dollars? You were supposed to ask about my life. To show interest in my work. To value me regardless of how much money I had. Dad joined the call. The governor's office released a statement praising your foundation. It mentions you were originally uninvited from the ball. Lauren, that makes us look terrible. Then maybe you shouldn't have uninvited me. We're your family, Mom said. You should protect us. You should have protected me, I said quietly. You should have included me. You should have been proud of me before the governor announced it publicly. Melissa texted later. Mom is having a breakdown. Everyone's talking about us. Can you please do something? I didn't respond. 3 days later, the governor's office called. Miss Hartwell, we'd like you to join the State Education Board. Your expertise and philanthropic perspective would be invaluable. The governor is appointing you personally. I'd be honored, I said. The appointment made headlines. More photos, more articles, more public recognition of my work. Mom called again 2 weeks later, tearful, apologetic, asking for another chance. I need time, Mom, I said. You spent 5 years dismissing me. You can't erase that with apologies. How long will you punish us? I'm not punishing you, I said gently. I'm protecting myself. There's a difference. 6 months later, the foundation held its annual gala. Donors, grant recipients, and education leaders gathered to celebrate the year's achievements. The governor attended, along with state officials and nonprofit directors. My parents weren't invited. They saw the photos online. Me with the governor, with senators, with the children whose programs we'd funded. The life I'd built without them. The respect I'd earned. The impact I'd created. Mom sent a text. You look beautiful. I'm proud of you. I stared at it for a long time. Pride offered after public recognition, after social consequences, after everyone else had validated me first. Eventually I replied, thank you. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. It was acknowledgement that she existed, nothing more. Because I'd learned the most important lesson. My worth was never determined by my parents' recognition. The governor knew my value. Grant recipients appreciated my work. Thousands of children benefited from my foundation. My parents' blindness was their limitation, not mine. They said I wasn't sophisticated enough for their charity ball. But I was sophisticated enough to fund it, to change lives, to earn a governor's medal, to build something that mattered. And I did it all while they assumed I was filing papers in a basement somewhere. The foundation continued to grow. The grants kept flowing. Children kept learning. And my parents learned what it felt like to be excluded from something important. Not because they weren't good enough, but because they'd failed to recognize what was valuable when it stood right in front of them. Sometimes the greatest success is the kind nobody expects.